Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is that time again for a specialist story. Today we are diving into Ruin's backstory, but it all comes full circle. If you look back to the past of the specialist backstories, the very first one that we made was about Spectre, and how Jessica Mason Green looks to be Spectre. Today, it all comes full circle as we are going to see Ruin's relationship with Spectre. And I'm not going to lie, they have a pretty weird relationship with a lot of information revolving around it. Now, as I mentioned, this is the last specialist character we have to look at. So, if you would like to see me continue this series, dive into older characters like Frank Woods, Alex Mason, and even other characters like Savannah, and you want to see this series continue, all you have to do to show me is simply hit that like button. And the more likes this video gets, the more likely I will be to continue on this series in a new and exciting way. On top of that, before we dive into the story, I just wanted to let you know that later today I will be live streaming over on Twitch. It's going to be a bit of a later stream. It's going to start around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But what we're going to be doing today is custom games. So I'm going to be playing games with you guys, my subscribers, like Hide and Seek, One in the Chamber, Gun Game. So a bunch of you are going to actually be able to play. So if you want to play some Black Ops 4 with me, you want to play some custom games, it'll be the first link down in the description. And like I said, hopefully I see you there sometime around 9 p.m. So before we dive into what Ruin's relationship is with Spectre, we first have to understand what Donnie Walsh, aka Ruin, is all about. And where we're going to start with that is his bio. So as we've talked about before, the bios in Black Ops 3 and 4 are identical, exactly the same. So they just copied them from Black Ops 3 to 4. So how it starts is born into a military family and raised in a tough neighborhood, Donnie Walsh grew up fearless and headstrong. Joining the army straight out of high school, Walsh is an infantry soldier through and through. The battlefield has become his second home. He is suspicious of covert ops and anything that operates outside the established order of command. Viewing them as dishonorable, he prefers a straight-up fair fight and knows that there is never a substitute for good boots on the ground. Now cybernetically augmented, he uses his unique abilities to rush headlong into the fray, meeting his enemies with sheer and unadulterated overwhelming force. Now the first thing that I want to look at in the bio is the very first line. It says, born into a military family. I think Donnie Walsh was born into a very long lineage of a military family. The one person that comes to mind is actually someone that my subscribers told me about, someone named Loretta Walsh. Loretta Walsh was the very first woman to ever join the Navy. The very first one. After this, they implemented more structure and legislature to allow more women into the Navy. However, she was the one that really pushed that narrative forward. Loretta Walsh joined the Navy on March 17th, 1917, so almost exactly 102 years ago. After that, she went and fought in World War I and died shortly after. However, she didn't die from fighting in the war, she simply died from tuberculosis. In real life, Loretta personally had no kids. However, it is possible that Donnie Walsh is designed after Loretta Walsh's family lineage, and kind of fell into the family business of military. But hey, that's just a theory. Now, something that's not a theory is the next part of the bio we're going to look at. It says, he is suspicious of covert ops and anything that operates out of the established chain of command, viewing them as dishonorable. This is bullshit. Literally every single situation we see Donnie Walsh in is either covert ops or going outside of the established chain of command. A perfect example of this is his cutscene in Black Ops 4. Here it is.
On me, soldiers. This region ain't no nothing but the NRC for the past year. That changes today. Contact! 3 o'clock, second floor!
Cut up from squad mate's dead. Attack, over.
Sir, eyes up.
We have our orders, Walsh. We push through this hellhole and rendezvous with command.
All due respect, if that were you, you'd want us to divert, right? Never leave a man behind.
Stand down, Private. There'll be consequences.
Fuck your consequences.
Hey, assholes! Thanks for the assist, soldier.
Nothing to it. Nice throw, Baker.
Nothing quite like a frag to cause offense. Let's move before they start indirect.
So as you can very clearly tell by this cutscene, it's all about him going outside the chain of command. It literally is going as far as to say,
Fuck your consequences.
so much for Ruin caring whether or not that is dishonorable. Now, the other thing about this cutscene, the only really other important thing to note about this cutscene, is that it appears as though this is the first time that Ruin meets Battery. The reason why I say that is because you can see from the cutscene that when they first start talking, the first thing Ruin does is look down at her name tag and say, "Hello, Baker." The second example of when Ruin goes outside the chain of command is in his comics. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into the comics, but there's some very, very important things that we want to look at here. So I'll just give you a very brief breakdown. Now, essentially what's going on in this comic is that 4 years ago, Ruin was on a mission with this red-headed girl in Cairo. Now, this red-headed girl is essentially his superior officer. And Ruin and this red-headed girl end up inside a prison where they find their target that they're looking for. And as they're going to extract them, Ruin wants to save everyone else in the prison. However, the red-headed girl tells him not to. And once again, he goes outside the chain of command and rescues everyone from the prison. Now, once again, this is a perfect example of him going outside of the chain of command and working in covert ops. The other thing that's important about this is that he works for the Winslow Accord. Literally, the most covert ops you could possibly get is working for the Winslow Accord. So, literally, that statement that we looked at earlier is really off the table. So that's kind of Ruin's backstory, but here's where things get really crazy. Here's where shit hits the fan, if you will. Going back to that comic, as it turns out, we know who this red-headed lady is. Guess who it is? It is Jessica Mason Green. You may be thinking, how the hell is this Jessica? We know that Jessica has black hair in all of the Black Ops 4 cutscenes. Well, first of all, remember that this is 4 years earlier, and it also shows us in the comic. In fact, in this scene here, it says that they were on a covert ops mission that was off the books, so they had to cut their name tags off. And in the next panel of the comic, we can see both of their name tags laying there. So the first name tag in the front, you can see is very clearly D. Walsh or Donnie Walsh. And in the background, you can see J.MA. In other words, Jessica Mason. So clearly from this, we know that this mission in Black Ops 4 that they go on that goes totally wrong is not even close to the first time that Ruin and Jessica Mason have worked together. In fact, they've worked together for 4 years prior, at least to the events of Black Ops 4. Also, it's important to note that Jessica Mason is Ruin's superior. Ruin worked for her. Also, this explains why in the story for Black Ops 4, Ruin is the one that is contacted by Jessica after she tries to save the specialist characters from Savannah. Now, I did try to look a little bit deeper and see whether or not Ruin and Jessica had a little bit closer of a relationship, maybe even dating. But as it turns out, it appears as though Jessica is married because of her hyphenated name, Jessica Mason Green. We know that this is not her parents' name because Savannah is known as Savannah Mason, not Savannah Mason Green. So assumably Lucy, who is Jessica's daughter, is also assumably this Mr. Green's daughter. Now, we have no idea who this Mr. Green is. He has never been in a previous Call of Duty game, and he is absolutely not seen in Black Ops 4. So that's kind of a mystery. Possibly a future specialist character, who knows? Now, as we know, as we discussed in Spectre's previous video, we believe that Jessica Mason Green is Spectre. And even after all of that evidence I presented in that video, some of you still didn't believe that Jessica is Spectre. Now, one piece of evidence that I didn't look at in that previous video is the new skin for Spectre in Black Ops 3. So this skin was added in briefly before Black Ops 4 came out. So the important part to look at here is that golden jawline that we didn't really see all throughout Black Ops 3, but as we can very see, easily compares to Jessica's new jaw in Black Ops 4, which is just another piece of evidence that ties the two together. Now, the one other thing on the previous Spectre video that a lot of people said was a reason why Spectre was not Jessica is that the voice of Spectre in Black Ops 3 was a lot more manly. Well, I'm here to prove that that is also wrong. As we saw in that exact scene that we just watched, Jessica has a voice changer. You can see it light up right under her jawline as this like little blue light. And there is 100% a difference in the voice between Black Ops 4 and Black Ops 3. Here's what she sounds like in Black Ops 4.
Lucy, this is Donnie.
Jessica.
And here's what Spectre sounds like in their transmissions in Black Ops 3.
Things are very rarely entirely as they seem. The key is to try to grasp the bigger picture.
So as you can very clearly hear, in Black Ops 3, Spectre sounds much more manly. So, the question is, why? Well, I have an answer for you. It's because none of the other Specialist characters know that Spectre is Jessica. None of them. The reason why we know this is because the first character we would expect to know is Ruin, Donnie Walsh. And as we find out by Ruin's transmissions in Black Ops 3, Ruin has no idea who Spectre actually is.
Spectre creeps me out. Just sitting there, surrounded by corpses, checking intel and cleaning those blades. That's what we were doing here. Calm as anything.
Calm lasted about 3 seconds when we said we had company coming in behind us.
Said if we'd blown the mission, we'd be kissing our internal organs goodbye. Yeah, exact turn of phrase.
Think you got called sugar at one point.
Yeah.
So you can very clearly see they have no idea who Spectre is, and it seems like Jessica is doing that on purpose, keeping her identity separate from Spectre, and I don't really know why, but it's clear. On top of that, if you're suggesting that Spectre is still a dude, how many dudes do you know that call other guys sugar? On top of that, sugar's often a thing that you call someone who you know, who you recognize. And Spectre, if she's Jessica, would obviously know who Ruin is and would feel comfortable calling him sugar. But ladies and gentlemen, that is Ruin's backstory, and that is how Ruin ties into Spectre. The very first video that we made on the Specialist stories was about Spectre, and it comes full circle to the last Specialist character being Spectre as well. And not only that, I truly believe that the next Specialist character to be added to Black Ops 3 is also going to be Spectre. And if you'd like to see me make a video about that, all you gotta do to show me is simply hitting that like button. So if you want to see a video talking about why I believe Spectre is going to be the next Specialist character, just hit that like button and I will definitely make that video if this video gets enough likes. Also, let me know what you think of the video down in the comments below, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on, as it's the best way to stay up to date on all of my videos. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you want to see me continue on with this series and look at older Black Ops characters like Frank Woods, Alex Mason, or even diving into something newer like Savannah, simply hit that like button and I will continue on this series, because I love to make these types of videos. Because as Spectre says,
Things are very rarely entirely as they seem.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard. And I want